Moving on to the collections module, which is a different kind of module than the date, time, type, and calendar modules we've already covered. So this module has many different types in it that are dictionary-like and tuple-like. So these are types that are like dictionaries and like tuples, but add more functionality or just have a different kind of functionality, but are very similar. Okay, so the first kind of object we're going to look at is the default dict. So this is just like a normal dictionary, except each key has a default value. And the value is based on the type that we tell it to be. So for instance, we're going to create a default dict down below that just like this. And we're going to say the default value will be an integer. And that means by default, it's going to use 0 as that type or as that default value. So all of these, this is just a way of saying the default values will be 0. If we say default dict list, it's going to create a dictionary where each key has the default value of an empty list. Okay, so let's see how this works. First, we're going to see an example that does not use a default dictionary. And then we are going to use a default dict to show that it is a big improvement. All right, so here's a string. And we want to count all of the letters in this string and create a dictionary of that. So the final result will be one character mapped to its count. So to do this, we're going to iterate through each character in the string. We're going to test if the character is not in D. So if it has not been seen yet, then we have to input it into, or we have to add it to our dictionary. So this is the first time it sees it. Otherwise, we will get its value and just add 1 to it. All right, then we're just going to print out D. Okay, so here we go. So it goes through here. So here's the letter, and this here is the number of occurrences. So instead of doing this, we can do a default dict. So we'll just say DD for default dict. And actually before that, we need to import the collections module. And you know what? We're not going to import the collections. We're going to do it the other way. So we're going to say from collections, import, press tab. First of all, here are all the objects you can import from the collections. We're going to do this a little bit differently. We're just going to import the default dict object itself, not the entire collections module. So just a different way of doing this, which we already covered. So now we don't have to reference it from collections dot. We can just reference it directly. So we can say dd equals default dict. And what you do here is you put the type that you want it to default to. So we're going to say we want it to be an integer, and which really just means default integer is 0, like this. So now I'm going to take this code over here and I'm going to replicate it, except now I no longer have to check if it's in the dictionary. I don't have to set it equal to 1. I can just get rid of all this code and just immediately add 1. So the default value will be 0. So if it sees something for the first time, well, it's just going to use 0 as the value and add 1 to it. So here we go. Here's the default dict. And here it shows the exact same information. So other than that, the dictionary works the same way. So if we want to get a particular key, we just do that. And we see its value is 9. S is 1. If we pick a letter like Z, which is not in there, it will return 0. It will not error out. So it'll just say that, okay, yeah, it is 0. All right, now there's actually another object called counter. So this is another type that's also dictionary-like. And this works even better for this same exact problem. So counter is pretty cool. It just counts. It does exactly what we want here. It takes an iterable and it just counts those objects, and then it will make a dictionary out of it. So let's do this again. So from collections, import counter. And counter, now we just add in the iterable that we want to count. So here it is string, like this. And let's just say CT for counter. So here it is. And it will just do the count for us without having us to do any code really whatsoever. There's one method that's pretty cool that I like to use here. So notice it has a lot of the same dictionary methods, but it has this one in particular called most common. And you say, all right, well, what are the most common, like say the top 3 here, well, it'll just return this as a list of tuples. So it says, all right, P is the most common, its count is 9. E is the second most common, its count is 8. The space is the third, and its count is 7. So very cool. Another method that you can use, counter is a very popular one, and yeah, it does all this counting automatically for you without even needing to use this default dict, and certainly without using just a regular dictionary. All right. Yeah, so there's a lot more objects in the collections module, but now you're aware of default dict and the counter.